What episode are we doing?
Right from the beginning.
Okay, we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about Star Trek: The Next Generation here on YouTube and the podcast. And the Doctor didn't know what episode we're recording.
I'm just here playing with my toys, man. I don't know.
You already know. No, it's true. Today we're doing the Best of Both Worlds Part 2. Hello, I'm joined.
Yes.
I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues, Gary from Trekker Prize. Hello, Gary.
Hello.
I think your mic went out, Gary, but
I'm still here.
oh, there you go. Yeah, but you're like super quiet.
Yes.
Is it plugged in?
No, he's got to do the shaky thing.
Oh,
Gary's always got something going on.
Again?
Yeah, it's doing it again.
it's doing it again.
All right.
Can you hear me?
There, now we're
There.
No, okay. I don't know what
Okay.
did I do. I just.
Maybe it's the cable. Maybe the cable's a little.
Well, we are
Now is it still on?
we are opening a subspace communication channel across many millions of miles and of space and time. Thousands. We've
I'm abandoned here in the Badlands.
I've traveled millions of miles.
Thousands
Thousands of miles.
I'm from Doctor from Edinburgh. Oh wait, hang on. That was a wrong accent.
This is a pretty good one though. And then of course I'm joined by the Doctor, my longtime colleague here by Star Trek, the original duo here, the dynamic duo.
The purveyor of all the toys, the Star Trek
toy-
toys here.
The Toy Master.
There we go.
So yeah, before we jump into the episode, I just want to take a moment because I know Gary was just at a local Comic Con event, and I was wondering, Gary, if we could get the scoop before you talk about it on your show, even though your show will air before this show does.
The time capsule.
The time capsule. If you wanted to just tell us a little bit about your experience there. I saw that you were dressed as Mork from Mork and Mindy.
Oh yes, yeah, and actually, I was quite surprised. Quite a few people actually stopped by and it's like, "Hey, you're Mork!" It's like I never seen a Mork costume before, cosplay before. It's like, oh, "Wow, that's super cool!" And they were actually really excited and stuff, and they took pictures with me. Like, well, not many, like 5. And usually I went to cosplayers and
That's
took,
a lot.
Well, that's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, because some people just thought, okay, that's like a normal guy just walking around, and there's like he's wearing weird suspenders with badges on that I handmade actually. Because it's one thing to get a suspender, and I spent quite a long time actually I can actually show it as well. So to get the specific suspender with this rainbow color and with the right order of colors,
Oh wow.
and so that took me like a couple of months to actually find it somewhere, and I had to get it from Germany. And these little badges, all handmade, because I couldn't find the original, so I just took the stills from the show and I did it. And actually, that too, I have the Genie's lamp and flubber.
Oh,
That's
look
just
at
one.
that.
Wow.
That's
So
that's
those are
two
just
extra.
like nice homages to Robin Williams.
Exactly, just a nice
Wow.
for
Very
honoring the
nice.
man himself.
That's
So
a
yeah, so
nice
that-
touch.
Yeah, well, I thought, but not a lot of people got it. So, but again, Mork wasn't really a cosplay material before. But yeah, it was
Cool, that's
nice.
really cool.
It was really nice. The event is really nice. I especially went for meeting Andrew Robinson, Garrick, who played in DS9, who I met, and we took a fantastic photo too with him in the
Oh.
booth. Yeah, well, I told him, can we do a classic Garrick? Because every time if you search for Garrick, you always get this surprise then with his hand, just shaking and So I was like, can we do this? And actually we did. He was super cool. I don't know if you can see it. He was amazing.
Wow, look at that.
Wow.
He was amazing. And the funny thing is, I actually asked. Well, he told me, it's like, oh, I really like your costume and stuff. So it's like, he recognized me as well as Mork, and
That's
he's
cool.
he's a really cool guy. I asked him, like, who was the best character he actually loved playing, and I'm not sure if it's propaganda or something, but he said it's like Garrick was his favorite, and I told him I will miss you from the screen, miss you from Star Trek, but then he said, yeah, well, it's good to know. But no, he's extremely funny and friendly, and wow.
Is his his mannerisms and intonation and the way he carries himself, are they so very different from Garrick? Was Garrick a real like a character that he like spent that's very different from him, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
I didn't have that much time to experience that, but by the time I had a little chat with him, and at the beginning, the funny thing is when I was waiting for the autograph, that I have here too, it's like literally just to Gary, and he even wrote it down, Garrick.
That's cool.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
He was really I was just waiting for him, and I was just literally one man away from the table, and someone just walked past me, between me and the table, and he almost fell off on the tablecloth, and I just realized that was Dean Cain.
That what? Dean Cain?
Dean Cain.
Oh, whoa, Superman.
Superman himself. He almost fell in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
You almost tripped and killed Dean Cain. That's great. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. and the funny thing is, I paid for my autograph, and I wanted to walk up to Andrew Robinson, and what happened? I almost got fell off from the same tablecloth, and he was like, You did that by purpose, yes? I was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, yeah, are you sure? It's like, yeah, I can see you are the guy. And well, that was the only really, and I just asked him about the character and how would he summarize Garrick as a character, and he said it's just a basic, simple tailor. That's the best description of Garrick, which is quite interesting. I love this answer from him, and so I think he's more like himself when he plays Garrick, and he's more like Garrick when he plays himself. Well, that was weird. But yeah, he's a really friendly guy, and obviously talking about Superman, I have him too. There you go.
Oh wow,
Dean Cain himself.
Cain. Wow.
And I walked up to him and I just only said Nanu Nanu, and he was like, "Oh, Mork, yay, I love it!" So he was so excited to see someone dressed up as Mork, which I did. So, and he's super funny with
Lois and Clark was such a good show. I have lots of fond memories of that show.
Yeah, I remember watching it before I got into Star Trek, and wow.
Even though it was oddly close to being Lewis and Clark, which is a whole different story altogether. But anyways.
Oh. And just to touch on these days, I had an opportunity to actually take a photo in one of the. I think you all know Big Bang Theory.
Yes.
So there you go, sitting in the Big Bang Theory set as Mork.
So wait, they had the set.
They had the set built up, just this part. So if you've been walking around, it's just usually one wall with these furnitures, and that's it. But it was, I think it was just a nice touch to have. And there was a bundle that you could have with Will Wheaton.
That looks like my shelf. The one back there, it's kind of like similar to the one in that.
Yeah, well, obviously it's just it's not gonna be exactly the same, but yeah, there you go. And yeah, I happened to meet Richard Dean Anderson.
Oh my god!
Got an autograph from him.
MacGyver.
Yeah, MacGyver and
Colonel
Jack O'Neill.
Yeah, Colonel. Is it Colonel, or what was his rank at the end of the show?
I don't know.
Probably a general by the end of the show, but yeah, he's a colonel. Wow.
And also Teal'c as well.
Oh, look at that!
Wow, Teal'c.
Yeah, Teal'c. And the other funny thing is, the autograph's not for me. It's one of my friend that I have to send posted to soon. But they were both nice. The funny thing is, they sat so far next to each other, so a totally different area of the convention. And Richard Dean Anderson apparently wasn't allowed to personalize autographs.
What do you mean?
I mean, you know, when you go there and you just go, can you? They ask you your name and stuff, and it's like, okay, it's like, oh, you okay to Gary, or you know, best wishes, Gary, and then you know, Richard Anderson.
Right.
But then I asked him, like, can you sign it for this name? And he was like, and he looked at the lady next to him, and it's like, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to. And the lady was like, no.
Weird.
But then but he did it. Just quickly, when no one was watching it, and and I just realized, okay, this is actually quite sad because you pay an awful lot of money for these autographs. He costed £50, 50 British pound to
Wow.
to have an autograph with, and sometimes they're not even allowed to personalize the signatures, and
That's not right.
That's not, and I don't even understand why you have to pay for signatures that much. At least I don't know if it's the US is the same system, but
Well, I'd be okay with it if the artist was. I mean, a lot of I feel like, for example, Peter Mayhew, pretty much that's probably how he makes his living. You know, now he's in Star Wars again, but before, you know, the Force Awakens, like he did the convention cert. So if a big chunk of that money went to the artist, like I'd be happy to pay.
Well, you know, I think, but coming at it from the convention goer's point of view, I don't think they should charge autographs that are higher than the price of the ticket to get in. Because I know, like, for example, there's a convention right now. Peter Capaldi is right now as we speak. How far is Fort Lauderdale from me, Sahel?
Oh yeah, it's like 30 minutes with no traffic. Maybe an hour.
Right, and his autographs
must be dying in the heat.
The autographs are, I think it's almost $200 for an autograph.
Wow, for Peter Capaldi?
Yeah, and I'm like, no, sorry,
wow.
It's not. You know, the highest I'll go is I paid $50 for David Prowse for Darth Vader.
It cost $50 for David Prowse.
Yeah, I paid $50 for. Oh, it's over there. But yeah, I paid $50, and that's as much as I'll go. And the ticket itself was, I think, $76. So you're getting close to the ticket price. But if you really think about like those big cons, I mean, if you pay, how much was the ticket to go for yours?
I think it was 20 pounds.
Oh wow! So
okay,
yeah.
But for David Prowse, you've been. Oh, I mean, sorry, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that, but you've been overcharged quite well. I mean, because for us, in London, it cost normally like £15, and I just did a quick calculation. It's £38 in British money,
right?
Dollars. It's ridiculously expensive then. Over there, I thought it's much cheaper.
Some of it has to do with the promoters themselves. The promoters actually dictate how much the acts can, not the acts, but the talent can charge. Some of it is because they pocket some of that money themselves, right?
Yeah.
Or the people representing. You know, a lot of those people, they're, you know, like for example, Richard Dean Anderson and Teal'c, they're probably part of a package deal.
Probably, yeah.
They're like one talent agency probably says, okay, well, this summer we've got so-and-so, we've got the $6 Million Man and these guys, and they're all ready to tour these different conventions. So sign us up, but we take this cut from the autographs and all that stuff. And that's been going up and up. And it's not fair, really, because if you pay a certain amount, you know, let's say I pay $76 to go to a convention, you're going to tell me I got to buy food, which is going to cost a lot because it's at the convention centers.
Yeah.
And then I got to pay, what is it? Almost $200 in autographs sometimes? No.
No freaking way.
Yeah.
No. Wow. I still, but you know what? There was one person in this convention that I just, while I had to, because she's actually one of my friends' favorite, and he wasn't able to be there. And when I told this lady that she has a big fan, she said, just let him know. She wishes she will see him one day. And this lady is Miss Lala Ward.
Oh my God, you're kidding!
Wait, look what it says.
And
It
it's
says
You did not do that.
It's signed
No, you did not.
it's signed for Humberto.
Oh my
Love. Actually,
god!
it says love to Humberto.
You. Oh my. Oh wow. I'm speechless. Thank you so much. I can't believe that.
Hey, yeah, well,
Wow.
you can. It's here. It's almost live.
It's almost live.
and it'll be on its way to Miami.
What was she like?
she's well, I didn't really see the the episodes with her in Doctor Who, but she was really friendly, and I told her you're a big fan of her. She was like, oh, I already like him. I already like him. And she said just let you know, she wishes one day she will meet you.
And she'll probably remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thank you so much. That's amazing.
You're very welcome. It's gonna be with you
Wow.
shortly. Well, shortly, within postal services range.
Look at that. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
A very special episode of Starfleet Boy.
That's extraordinary. Wow.
I remember the last time when we talked about it, and you said it's like, "Oh, Lala Ward," and it's like you got so excited, and I was like, "Oh, okay, we can't."
Lala Ward.
We can't just leave that like that. So there you go.
She's royalty. I mean,
she is royalty. Oh my
Doctor Who
god.
royalty. And look at that. I'm not sure if I chose the right picture, but
no, that's perfect.
That Dave.
Or the Doctor one.
I've had many thoughts of her in that costume.
Oh.
Okay. Well.
Okay. PG-13.
Let's keep that for another episode.
Let's keep it real. Let's keep Drug Space 9. We'll talk more about it on Drug Space 9.
Gary, thank you very much. I'm wow. Thank you so much. That's very generous of you.
Well,
wow.
You're very welcome.
I got the feels right now. I'm all feely. McFeely over here.
I think all of us.
I knew about the secret, and I did a good job, didn't I? I didn't.
I had no idea. Wow.
I didn't let you.
That was shocking.
I'm usually the worst person to tell a secret to. Also, well, depends on the secret. But all right. So now that we got the cool recap, Gary, that's pretty awesome of the convention. I guess we should get started.
Warp Factor 9.
Warp Factor 9, yeah. Let's.
What's the episode we're reviewing? I'm completely. I'm just. I don't know.
You've thrown the Doctor off his game.
Are we going to review Doctor Who? Can we talk about the Law Board episode?
Yeah, maybe one day we can do a little special Doctor Who Star Trek crossover. But today we are going to finish up our discussion that we started of the Best of Both Worlds. So today we're going to do Best of Both Worlds Part 2. Basically, we left off with the crew of the Enterprise and Riker being put in a very, very, very uncomfortable position because their captain, their beloved Captain Picard, has been assimilated by the Borg. And nothing like this has ever happened in Star Trek before. It was a very exciting time. It's still exciting if you're new to Star Trek. And we do apologize if this is spoilery, but you should be watching the episode before you listen to our discussion. So Captain Picard's a Borg. Riker orders to fire, and in this awesome display of power, the Enterprise, which has been which the crew has been working really hard to get this weapon prepped, fires from its deflector array, and so much energy, and it should have completely destroyed the Borg cube, but nothing happens. The Borg were prepared for it, and it turns out, that Captain Picard's assimilation means that all of his strategic knowledge, all of his memories, everything about him is now part of the Borg collective. And so it's kind of like the Borg just upgraded and became like even, more powerful. And he kind of taunts Riker, which is interesting a little bit, and calls him number one still and things like that. And basically the Borg cube continues on its way toward Earth, and the Enterprise is left basically adrift a little bit because of all the damage they incurred in this futile battle. And in this time, they're getting ready to they're repairing the ship and getting ready to rendezvous with the fleet at Wolf 359. And Admiral Hansen is appraised of the situation, and Commander Shelby has a few things to offer and say. And in this kind of like debate between, is Captain Picard still Captain Picard, and if he's not, Admiral Hansen kind of, sets the record and says, listen, Picard was a dear friend of mine. He tells his touching story about how he was, he won this marathon or this race, and how ambitious he was. And he says, and that man is dead. We have to assume that that's gone, and so we honor his memory. We move on. We have to protect the Earth and the Federation, and which is what he would do. So, again, they don't quite accept that, but they follow along with the orders. And there's a great scene with Guinan and Riker that we alluded to in the last episode, where she kind of inserts herself into his his council, and basically echoes like, you have to change your whole playbook because Picard knows everything. So you have to do something that he would totally not expect. And so that's exactly what Riker starts to plan to do. Meanwhile, they arrive at Wolf 359 and find that the Federation task force of 40 ships is completely destroyed, including Admiral Hansen, and it's just carnage. Beautiful. We'll talk in detail about that scene. But anyways, so then they decide to initiate this plan where they're going to basically kidnap the captain and try to separate him from the Borg Collective, or try to infiltrate the Borg Collective somehow. And that's exactly what they do. Really great scenes with Locutus interacting with the crew. And so Data starts trying to interface with Locutus so that he can access the Borg mainframe, and he manages to do so, but he can't really figure out what command to send to the Borg cube, and they're just right there at the Earth, and I think the Borg cube even starts to drill into Earth, doesn't it? Like, I forget.
No,
I'm confusing it for the Zindi episode in Enterprise. Sorry, where Florida gets cut and sliced or whatever. But anyways, regardless, they manage to implant. Picard suggests the word sleep when he starts to come out of his Borgness. When Picard starts to emerge from
Borgness,
I guess, from Locutus. And so he suggests the word sleep, and it puts the Borg ship into sleep mode, basically, just like you would do a computer. And that enables them to go on board and check things out. And they realize that because of the sleep command, the Borg ship is going into this kind of like overload cycle and will self-destruct soon. So they get off the ship, Borg cube blows up, Picard is separated from the Borg, and that's it. End of Best of Both Worlds Part 2. Did I miss something?
No. You did. Spot on.
So how did the answer live up to the cliffhanger? How did part 2 do for you guys? How did you feel about it?
I thought it was great at the time. I thought it was fantastic. The last few times that I got to see it in the theater when they did that theatrical release to promote the Blu-ray. So I got to see both episodes edited together, and it has. I complained that I missed the cliffhanger, but it does flow quite well without the cliffhanger as well. And I have to admit, and I think part of it is that it really does feel like one cohesive whole, these two episodes, and the second half, this second episode, I think holds up equally as well as the first half. There's a few things that I remember at the time, and I'm probably in the minority, I did I did wish that there was a part of me that was hoping that Picard was dead.
Oh wow!
And that we were going to have Locutus as the villain for a lot for maybe the whole season or something. I was really, I think one of the best things about these 2 episodes is just the idea of Locutus, of taking Picard, and I just thought it was so ballsy. It was so gutsy to take the captain of the Enterprise. I mean, imagine if it happened on the old show. What if they had taken Kirk, taken James T. Kirk, turned him into, there's no equivalent in the old show, turned him into a Borg, and Spock has to take command for the rest of the show. And every once in a while, Kirk would arise like a nemesis, and a recurring nemesis to taunt him. I just imagined this other alternate show as I was watching the second part. Remember when I was a kid, and even now I can still imagine, Riker's in command of the Enterprise, Shelby is the first officer, and we have Locutus, and Patrick Stewart would return from time to time, and he would just be Locutus, and he was so wonderful as Locutus.
I think that's certainly in today's what's being heralded as the golden age of television. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I haven't really processed it completely, but there are a lot of factors that I would agree with. But I think today television's a lot more innovative in that sense, in that a Star Trek Next Generation series taking place in today's TV environment may have actually delved into that. There may have gone in that direction without batting an eyelash.
Well,
I think that may have actually, that could have been a possibility today. And I think that we don't know the behind the scenes, but I vaguely recall that Patrick Stewart, there was something, and this could be like,
no, you're right.
There's a Starfleet boy headcanon here, but thing. But he was like negotiating his contract, and had he not like gotten what he wanted, that would have been his write-off. Like it would have been like, that's how they would have done it.
The same thinking before. It's like, was he actually leaving the show in season 3, in the end of season 3, and then
it was a possibility. If I recall correctly, there was a thing where he wasn't certain if he wanted to continue, and it had to do with his contract or whatever. Because now the show's more, this always happens. I mean, like when other than LeVar Burton and who else? It was just LeVar Burton, really, right?
It was just LeVar Burton, yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't really anyone else who was a star of that caliber on Star Trek The Next Generation. And LeVar Burton, really, it's because he loved Star Trek. He wanted to do it, I think. Already he was like a built-in fan. But Patrick Stewart didn't know anything really about Star Trek except that it existed. Like he knew about it, but not like certainly wasn't like into it deeply in any way. But then, by season 3 and I think especially after this episode, the popularity of the show was starting to gain momentum, and now these people were household names, like and now obviously we see what Star Trek, and I think Patrick Stewart's very gracious and attributes his current his career, his resurgence of his career in a way to Star Trek, because now he's played many iconic roles, and people have discovered his former his older roles, like in Dune, and then he got plenty of new roles. And then, of course, now he hit gold twice with Professor X. So Professor X is an iconic character that Patrick Stewart plays, and so is Captain Picard. And, it's rare in your career that you can do that. I don't think William Shatner even enjoys that. Like, T.J. Hooker never had the...
I don't think he ever talks about T.J. Hooker.
But I guess my point with that is that, yeah, it could have gone... in the direction you're saying, Doctor, because they certainly did that with Denise Crosby, finding clever ways to bring her back as a guest star, and she
exactly.
played. It's like, yeah. Exactly. So I think it could have happened with Patrick Stewart as well.
and also we'd already seen several shakeups in the cast already. I mean, if you think about it, you know, from season 1, we lost Crusher, and then in season 2 we gained Pulaski, and then in season 3 we gained Crusher again, and Pulaski left, and we gained Guinan. So we you know, the cast, we'd seen transitions. Oh, and of course Tasha had died, so there was already something of a precedent that this was not going to be like the original show where you pretty much had the same characters all the way through. I think there's only I mean, obviously Chekhov wasn't there from the very beginning, but once he was on board, that's it. He's part of the crew. And nobody died and nobody left, and you know, everybody was there the whole time. So the idea
even rearranged, you know, in terms of post, because in the first season Geordi was just a pilot, and then he became the chief engineer, and then Worf became the chief security as well.
Right.
So yeah,
exactly.
It's so, you know, it's so good that we're talking about this, because one does tend to forget with the passage of time that all these things were going on at the time, and it makes me feel a little bit in an odd way, it makes me feel a little bit better about all the troubled kind of production things that you hear about Star Trek Discovery, because, you know, now I think it's more out there than it ever with Twitter and like the internet and everything else. Like when there's trouble on the set, you hear about it. Like there's no
almost instantly.
Yeah, almost instantly. You're like, oh, you know. And I think just recently, by the way, I'm very encouraged, a lot more encouraged by the recent Entertainment Weekly reveal of photos and sets, because they released. I'm sorry, we won't spend too much time on Discovery here, but they released a picture that looks like a proper transporter.
A picture, a video.
Oh, in a video, yeah.
Dancing in the transporter room.
Yeah, and while I'll admit that the sets remind me more of Enterprise than they do of, you know, the original series. Yeah. I was comfortable with the Enterprise aesthetic, and I think that there might be buttons and levers also, which kind of make me a little bit more comfortable with the idea of the show. And the uniforms are starting to grow on me a little tiny bit, and I noticed in one of the videos that there was a variation insignia as well. I don't know if you caught that.
Oh, that's the Cadet Tilly, isn't it?
Yeah, which
the
would
black
again,
backdrop. Yeah, that's
right, which would again,
Starfleet Academy one.
Yeah, so that again would tie in with the concept of the original series, where, you know, the Delta wasn't the ubiquitous.
She still has the Delta on
symbol. I know it does still have the Delta, but at least there was a variation on it and things like that. So I don't know. Anyways, but the point I guess I was trying to make is that, like, you forget that there were all these things going on, because what we saw as the audience in our naivety maybe was we just thought these were just decisions that were made. You know, like you understood that Denise Crosby wanted to leave the show, so they killed her off. But as far as like the Locutus of Borg thing, I didn't know the background or any of the rumors or any of that. You know, to me, it was just like, whoa, they just assimilated Captain Picard. What a ballsy, you know, what a ballsy move on the part of the show. And it stuck, and it worked. It stuck with me. And so I thought that was pretty awesome. And I thought that the right time to bring him back would have been at that crucial stage of the beginning. Cause like you can buy that he hasn't been fully assimilated, that there is still humanity there. And then we find out later, of course, that like a Borg can retain or get its humanity back, even when they've been assimilated all their lives, or, you know, so on and so forth with Hugh.
Yeah, think about 7 of 9 as well.
So it's a really cool concept that's introduced here. And it is neat because now Captain Picard has like so much more depth to his character, and they certainly exploit that throughout the series. I mean, the episode coming up, Family, of course, which is so still close to so near the event, but then it's just every now and then you'll get a hint of you're reminded of the fact that this man has been traumatized and has been, you know, violated in ways that are like horrifying. You know, like he's been made to, I mean, it must weigh so heavy on Picard to know that he just like unwillingly gave up the knowledge to destroy the fleet of 40 ships. You know, like that's a lot of lives that were lost because of him. And Deep Space Nine starts out with that very
Battle
same
3, 4, 5, yeah.
Wolf 3, yeah, 3 5
359, yeah.
359. Yeah. Wolf 359.
We've met before, Captain.
Yeah, it's so good.
In battle at Wolf 359.
Wow, that's actually quite good.
That's a really good show. Yeah, you really need to come on to Drunk Space Nine there, Doctor. I think we need a designated driver for the runabout. Like, so I don't think that I think it holds up over time, and I think it's a really awesome story.
Everything you just talked about, I think, can be encapsulated in that wonderful coda in the final moments of the episode, where Riker returns to the bridge, and you're left with Picard, and you think it's just going to be another, okay, Picard's going to drink his tea, and then you remember he just kind of stops, and he puts the tea down. No, he just holds the tea, and he goes to the window. And the musical cue is very it's just disharmonious. It's not the music conveys that there is a lot of there's a lot going on right now in Picard's mind, and it's not good. And he feels, as you just said, he feels the weight of betraying the Federation, Starfleet, the responsibility of having been part of the destruction of those 40 ships and all those lives, and it's something that haunts him. And
well, even in First Contact, it comes up where they don't even feel comfortable with the Enterprise engaging with the Borg because they're worried about how Captain, the Starfleet is afraid of adding an unstable element to the, or whatever he says. In that scene, although I have to say, the Enterprise, I think that's really weird because the Enterprise E just comes in and like completely
saves the day.
Yeah, but it's like you're holding back like this level of armament to fight. The battle was almost lost, and then the Enterprise E comes in and it's just like,
all right, I believe we've come to the moment I've been dying for on this. Can we please discuss the lack of Earth's defenses?
Yes.
After Star Trek 1, after Star Trek 4, the only thing the Earth has are those 3 ships. 3 ships.
They're drones too, mind you. They're not even
drones.
I don't think they're piloted.
They are the defenses, because as soon as that scene is over, they tell Riker, Earth's defenses have been breached. Like, that's it. 3 frickin' ships.
You know what I would love to. I don't remember.
And the Zindi. That's
right. I know.
And the Dominion too, with the brain.
What is wrong with Earth?
The heart of Starfleet.
Well, I could tell you this.
Don't defend.
I'm not defending it, but I will. Okay, maybe I am defending it a little bit. No, okay, it's indefensible. You're right. So maybe Discovery will get this one right. We'll see. But you would think that there would be like a gigantic Tholian web around Earth, or do you know what I'm saying? Like, you would think that you could create like a
comes back and just grabs it.
What's that?
The green hand, the giant space.
Yeah, or the green. Yeah, you could, like. I would have. You're right. Like, why can't you have like a Tholian style web that protects the Earth? Yeah, it is a little disappointing that Earth's defenses were not.
I mean, I think here's the thing,
Well, do you think it's like, okay, do you think it's like Rome? The army was not allowed in Rome. Like, there was supposed to be, it was the ideal was that like Rome had a police force sort of, but there was no army in Rome, and
they idolized. They idolized Earth as a paradise.
Right,
so they didn't really have that much going on because they had the Starfleet cadets, and that was like, okay, they're quite a couple of ships around.
Does not look pleased with
and that's it. But I don't think Earth as any defense system is just feels a bit dumb. As you said, it feels a bit dumb to not having anything that protects you.
The Naradas.
They have a protection about asteroids or meteorites or something at least.
Gosh, right? I mean, I just never understood it. I mean, I guess, and also, it doesn't help that we've grown up with Star Wars, so we're used to planet-wide. I mean, I know it's jumping, franchises here, but I mean, I'm used to these giant force fields that protect Endor, and we just saw it in Rogue One, and why can't we have a planetary force field? It doesn't
even
seem...
in Spaceballs they have a freaking
even in freaking Spaceballs they have them. You gotta have that
with the very distinct code.
The tray, yeah. I mean,
if Star Trek is in the same continuity as Highlander, then the shield was destroyed in 20 whatever it was. So it's possible that
ladies and gentlemen, Zeist lives. That's all I have to say on that.
You like how I just brought Highlander 2 into our discussion? Gary, have you seen Highlander or Highlander 2?
I think I've seen the first one. I haven't seen the second one, but
Highlander 2, you have to see it, but you have to watch. Is it called the Zeist cut?
No, see, that's the thing. You've got to find, and it's very hard. You got to find the laser disc, my friend.
I think he's going to get something related to
probably.
What is the doctor doing? Oh, there it is, the laser disc.
Wow.
You got to say something, doctor.
You've got to look for this cover that says Highlander 2 The Quickening, which is only found on VHS or Laserdisc, because all the DVD versions have erased the planet Zeist from continuity. Because what they did is that they explained that the Immortals are actually aliens from the planet Zeist.
Wow.
And I'm all about it.
And Sahel, the bond that Sahel and I have forged over watching this film is in it's beyond time. It's beyond space.
It's true. The film somehow manages, even though it's
ridiculous.
I don't know. Yeah, it just somehow manages to be a proper Highlander film. And I guess the credit really goes to Sean Connery and Christopher Lambert on that one, because their chemistry is so good, and I think that's what it is really, is that and then it is ridiculous, and that's what I really think I love about it. So, anyways,
I'm so bad with these sort of things. I have to get my long list of movies and TV shows and just watch them. I don't know, for a week or something, not leaving the building.
I forgot that Highlander 2 was revised so much, and there's 3 cuts of it.
There's 3 cuts of it. Yeah, I own all of them.
Only? not like 15 as Star Trek 2? Everyone has a Star Trek 2 edition, like directors, HD, with commentary, without commentary. What?
No, but these versions of Highlander 2, they actually, I've never heard of any other film like this. They've actually gone back and rehired the actors many years after and shot scenes to insert into the movie.
Wow!
That's awesome, because they're trying to make it. They keep trying to help it make sense, and that's the problem. It won't ever make sense. It doesn't matter how many times you tinker with it, or how many money you spend on special effects. Highlander 2 will never make sense, but we don't care. We love it anyways.
It's true. It's so true. I have to say that and speaking of that with Star Trek, though, the variations aren't too crazy with Star Trek 2, but I think Highlander 2 is a great study for editors, because they're really different. Like it's a really neat thing to watch, because as a film person or a film student, because you can see how editing really that's where the movie it's such a vital and crucial part of a film because how it's edited is really the tone and feel and ultimately the film, period. And so
you're so right. Absolutely,
so
editing can save or break a film.
break a film.
Yeah. So back to the best of both worlds.
Right. So,
keeping you on track.
So thank you. So yeah, I think that the I think that's like, pretty much the thing about this episode is that it was, for me, I remember when I watched it, the outcome was also a little bit unexpected. I did not think that, it was very like, it was engaging because I didn't know how they were going to get out of this conundrum, and I thought they did it really well. I like the whole thing, and I like how the Borg, have this fundamental flaw or weakness that can be exploited, after this mighty Goliath, but then it's like a David moment where, like a little tiny subroutine in their in their programming causes them to sleep. And it reminded me of War of the Worlds and classic things like that, where like, you're throwing everything at them and nothing's working, and then the simplest thing, like a little bacteria, ends up being your saving grace.
That is an excellent connection you made there. That's so true. I hadn't thought about that. It is the world. It does echo War of the Worlds. You're absolutely right. Yeah. The other thing, I mean, like I said, I had hoped that Locutus would continue. I was very content with Riker being command of the Enterprise. I don't know how you guys felt. I thought
I rather liked his way of commanding, but I did miss Picard.
I didn't miss Picard at all. I'll be honest, I didn't miss Picard at all. I was more than happy to see Riker and Shelby commanded. Well, what do you all think of? How do you feel about Shelby by the end of the episode?
I warmed up to her for sure. I thought the second part, she still makes these like crazy kind of decisions, and there's still a lot of awkwardness, but I didn't mind it so much. And I think that the actress did a great job of letting her softer side seep in a little bit more in this. I did think it was really awkward in the scene where Riker announces her position as the first officer, how he describes it as, well, Shelby is this expert, so I reluctantly make her first officer. And I just thought that was like a kind of a dick move on Riker's part. It's like, you're not helping this person to feel more, Shelby kind of brushed it off. She didn't there was no reaction to it as far as I could tell on the screen, but I, as a viewer, was like, man, like, I just say like Shelby's the best person.
Even Worf and Data was like a bit surprised, like, why Shelby? She just got to the ship like 2 days ago, or 3, or whatever. But yeah, it was a bit awkward. But I kind of liked her character at the end. She looked more relaxed than at the beginning. I think she understood quite a few things in terms of how Riker became a more complex person at the end. Well, comfortable, as he said at one point, but I think she understood a couple of things about Riker and what's her path gonna be if she want to go higher into command. But that's just my opinion.
I did like go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I liked all the clashing between Shelby and Riker. What I do, thinking about it a little bit deeper now, the reason I miss Picard is because while Riker, I would gladly serve under Riker, as much as I would
without doubt
serve under Picard. But what I did notice is that Riker is, throughout this episode, and that's to his advantage actually in the context of the episode, but he's more unsure. Like, I mean, this is like such a pressure situation, and he's kind of just like, I don't know what to do. I don't, like.
Really? You got that sense?
I got the sense that he was just like torn up about a lot of things. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, he made great decisions, but I think it was just affecting him. And I just imagine had the situation been reversed and it was Picard, just Picard would have been a little bit more steely on the exterior. I'm sure he would have gone through the same turmoil inside, but just the way Picard's character seems to me is like something I prefer to emulate would be that kind of like steely, resolve, whereas Riker's more like, emotional.
Where do you think he was? where was he in the episode where he was kind of?
Oh, like the example I used of making that statement of like I reluctantly choose Shelby, and like just the way that I think
was that before or after Guinan?
That was after Guinan. I think he appoints her.
That was after Guinan.
Yeah, and then even just after, and then even that Guinan scene, it's like, I just thought that like, but again, he is a young commander. I mean, like he's not. I don't know if it's fair what I'm thinking, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like, you could see, I could see the difference between. I could see why the character of Riker would want to stay as the first officer of the Enterprise, because if you're working under the shadow of Picard, it's hard to see yourself graduating to that next level. I feel like Riker, if I were to put myself in Riker's shoes and wonder why isn't he taking the command, I think it would be because I feel like I have a lot to learn from this captain, or I admire this captain so much. And and I think later Riker is there. I think like Riker, who if we had it, it would have been wonderful. But had we had Titan Riker, I think he would have been a different commander, and even Riker in Best of Both Worlds, totally different from this command. This Captain Riker is totally different in my eyes from even Captain Riker that we get in All Good Things. So,
well, yeah, obviously,
which I like that Riker. He's salty and he's like bitter and like
bitter. I was gonna say he's bitter.
Yeah, but I like it. That? I don't know. I kind of like it. I kind of enjoyed it. I kind of like that he's like, he's hardened and he's like,
no. I liked Riker as captain. I didn't perceive the shift, the lack of confidence that you did. I actually saw it simply as, I mean, obviously they have gone through a great trauma with the loss of Picard. There is, I mean, his uncertainty about being captain, I think, reflects the fact that the crew is uncertain if they've lost a captain. Because, I mean, technically, there's still hope that they can bring him back. So perhaps that's where the uncertainty comes from.
Yeah, that's really valid. I didn't really think about that, but I would agree.
But I think, well, I just want to say the Guinan scene is one of my favorites. And we have to discuss, I don't know if you can bring up the exact quote.
Let me see.
But I know that when one of the big things that was discussed after the episode, and I even remember, and I remember discussing with Roger.
I don't know if I existed in your worlds at this point, but
right, this is before. But I mean, that whole thing where Guinan comes in, and she's like, "Picard and I, did he ever tell you what the nature of our relationship was?"
We
are beyond,
yes,
beyond friends, beyond family.
Mm-hmm.
And I even remember my dad and I just doing this double take, like,
who the heck is she?
What? What? And
our relationship is beyond friendship, beyond family, and I will let him go, and you must do the same. There can only be one captain. There can be only one captain.
There can be only one.
Yep.
Now, I mean,
this was, and then another quote. This was his crew. He wrote the book on this ship. If the Borg knew everything he knew, if the Borg know everything he knows, it's time to throw that book away. You must let him go, Riker. It's the only way to beat him, the only way to save him, which is pretty cool.
And Whoopi Goldberg, by the way, I mean, just delivers those lines just perfectly.
She's like epic to have on the show.
She's like, epic to have on the show. She owns the street when she comes on. I mean, it's just like, okay, everybody stop. because Guinan is here. And she's gonna tell it like it is, and she does.
Another thing that plays to your point is that the whole time, especially during that little kidnapping mission, you know,
which was awesome,
which was really awesome. Yeah, it was great because like even watching it now, I sometimes forget like the outcome. I know the outcome, but I forget like the execution of it, and so I get caught up. I get caught up in it too. But I just love that like there was this moment. See, that's when I think Riker's the strongest, is when he's just on the bridge, like doing his thing, because there's that moment where they're like, oh, the Borg are completely ignoring the saucer section, and he goes, as you should, Captain. So that plays to your point of how he hasn't really let go of Picard as the cap. Like he's battling
right
Picard,
right,
in a way, and like trying to save him, as Guinan suggested, which is kind of interesting. And even, you know, it's cleverly done, because even like the taunting that Locutus gives Riker by calling him number one and saying, oh, you know, like number one, your strategies are not like as good. It reminds me of rap battles. They should do a rap battle between Locutus and Riker. It might be a really good epic rap battles. Sorry. The doctor's like, no, stop talking about rap battle. But
you should make it so.
I'm not. I have no skills. I have no rapping skills whatsoever. But I thought that actually gives you a clue that Picard's in there still. You know what I mean? Like there is an admiration too, where he's like, well, not an admiration, but a disdain. Like you're letting me down, number one. You know, like.
Well, but also like, remember, what immediately calls to mind is the episode where they play the war game.
Right.
Yes. Remember, which is to prepare for the Borg, wasn't it? I think it was actually the Borg as well. And remember, you know, Riker, you know, he pulls out, you know, his you know, that card from here. Like, oh, wait a minute, I can outthink you on board the Enterprise D, and he does so again. So Riker really, I think, more than rises to the occasion, as a gifted commander, tactician. And then, as you pointed out, you know, when you watched the episode, you get caught up in the suspense of like, how are they going to do it? Partly it's because there is no scene where they explain what they're going to do. Right. So you're learning it as the Borg are, which is something that Next Generation doesn't always do. A lot of times, Next Generation, they have the scene, they sit down at the conference room, and they explain what they're going to do, and then they do it. That's typical Star Trek. But in this episode, they don't. You're like, what's going on? Why is Data and Worf on the shuttlecraft? Where are they going? What is happening? And I love, by the way, the special effects of, you know, this is the first time we had seen a special effect like this, where you see the shuttlecraft take off, and it's all from their point of view, and you're seeing out the side view, you know, out the side view. Right. You see them take off, you leave the Enterprise, there's the battle going on into there, and you know, they do the little buckle there, and I thought, for me, that was the height of special effects when I was blown away. I rewatched that over and over with my brother. Whenever I remember taping. I don't know if I said this before, but you know, this is why reruns were important, because when you saw this episode, right, I remember waiting this summer to tape it because it needed to be on its own tape, because I knew already from the first viewing that I wanted to keep it forever.
Right, you recorded it
on VHS.
You recorded it in 2-hour mode, not in like 6-hour mode, because you could, on VHS you could record like on extended mode, which was like a less quality, or you could record on like normal mode, which was only like an hour and a half or 2 hours. So yeah,
SP gave you 2 hours.
Yeah,
LP gave you 4.
LP. Yeah.
And EP gave you 6 hours.
That's right.
So I did a lot of taping, I know. So we had a Star Trek The Next Generation tape, and you know, over time, where it became the first tape, the first episode on that tape was Best of Both Worlds, 1, 2, and then Family. And those are the first 3 hours on that tape. And from the moment I saw these episodes, I knew I wanted these. I wanted to own these for the rest of my life. I love these episodes. I love them.
Very nice.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say, really. I've professed undying love.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah. I don't know.
What moments this rewatching stand out that didn't stand out to you in your subsequent or previous rewatchings? And that to both of you. If any moment stood out.
I don't know.
It's a bit hard.
For
because
me,
the whole episode is like a standout.
For me, well, first of all, it helps that we're watching these remastered versions. This rewatch is my first time seeing the show remastered. The last time I rewatched the series in earnest, it was the DVD, and it was the same, standard special effects. So to me, a lot of things stood out in terms of just details and things like the effects look really good. But something that I caught this time that I never caught before, which is surprising because it's always been there, is the post the epilogue sequence. I never noticed the little patches on Picard's head where the implants were before, or on his face. Yeah, I never noticed that. It's so weird.
The SD version as well.
No, I know, but I just or if I noticed it didn't make it. It didn't impact me as much as it did this time. The other thing that was cool was I thought that I never really realized this, but you really appreciate the prosthetics and the makeup artistry, especially on Data when he's plugged in.
Yes.
And that was pretty cool. And I thought that was it still holds up. I mean, I know it's just a bunch of LED lights going in a cycle, but I mean I've seen this kind of work done before, and it kind of pops out. It looks like you added more bulk to the actor's head, but it doesn't look like that at all.
It's very flush against.
It's very flush against Brent Spiner's.
You're right.
Head,
absolutely right.
So that was
the
really
one thing
cool.
that really stand out for me in terms of special effects. In the remastered edition, it's the Borg ship, the interior of the Borg ship. I don't know if any of you noticed this. There's actually a river in there, or some sort of
There's a river?
There's water in the ship.
A river runs through it? What?
A river runs through it?
Yeah.
Do they have dolphins?
I don't know. But it looks like there's a river. There's
a simulated dolphin.
It's a huge ship. It's a huge ship. Maybe they they assimilated from the Enterprise D. I don't know, but there's a river in the Borg cube. You can see reflecting.
I've never noticed that before. I mean, the level of detail on the Borg ship, you're right. I mean, the scene where Picard is watching how the battle is unfolding, and it's on that kind of rotating cube screen. I remember when I first saw that on television, it just looked like one big blur. I didn't know. I really, truly did not know what the Borg ship looked like until I saw First Contact. That's the first time I saw the interior of the ship clearly.
Well, the First Contact interior is insane with that. That awesome. Jonathan Frakes talks about it in his commentary, but it's this huge kind of cylindrical shape or whatever, and I forget now what he said in the commentary, but it was meant to convey this
I tried to pull out the picture of the.
I've got it here. I'm gonna show you.
You got it.
I think so, but I still don't see the river. But maybe you can help us point it out. Let me see here. Oops, that's not supposed to happen.
Whoa,
that was interesting.
Hold on, present.
Yeah, it looked really cool actually.
Present to everyone. There we go. That's what I was supposed to do.
Wow.
To see those pipes all over from one side to another.
In
the bottom part, and there's it's It's not the best picture actually. But yeah, that from the bottom, that's just a white, blackish, greenish line. That's the river. I think it's from the SD version, so you can't really see.
But you see it moving, and I have to watch it again now. That's so cool. That you see the water moving.
You know what? I have an idea. I'm going to do something that I've never done before. I'm going to actually pull up the episode. I'm gonna put the episode on, and are we allowed to do that though?
Well, I think we're fine.
Under 30 seconds, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do too much. Maybe I'm just gonna freeze it or something. Where am I?
Stand by. Yellow alert.
Yellow alert.
But
we're not doing anything illegal. Oh, May, hang on.
So I gotta ask you guys, like, Enterprise couldn't avoid somehow integrating the Borg into the storyline, and I don't remember it clearly, but I do remember it was okay. It was done in a way that was like, okay, that's
it was really good.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Do you think it would be too much now if Discovery does things like bring back the Borg, or do you think it? I think they should stay away from the Borg, but
they should stay away from the Borg.
What do you guys
think?
They should
stay away from the Borg. I concur. I mean, you know what? I think the Borg, with all due respect to Enterprise, which I thought their two-parter with the Borg was excellent, and to Voyager, which most of their Borg material was of variable quality, to say the least. I think I feel that the Borg should stay with Next Generation. You know, Deep Space Nine never used the Borg,
right? Except for the first episode. Yeah,
but they were never the heavy on Deep Space Nine. I feel that Next Generation should have some propriety, like feel like the Borg are theirs, you know.
Well, I think that, like, what made sense with Voyager, again, I haven't seen, I'm not super well versed on Voyager, but what made sense with Voyager is that I believe the Borg came from that quadrant, so it kind of delved into
through in their territory.
Right,
so through their territory, right?
So it kind of delved into that story, and of course, it ends up that that's how they get home, is they use Borg trans something technology to, isn't that gates. What they do? The gates, yeah. So it worked out, I think, and it made sense in that perspective. But I don't know. I can't say until I've actually really watched Voyager, which I plan to. I plan to dive into Voyager. But I would say that going back to Discovery for a moment, yeah, I wonder if the writers aren't tempted, because it's such an easy way to connect the story, the shows.
I vote no.
They should not do it. I vote no too.
Well, I think every Star Trek show should develop their own
big bad.
Yeah, exactly. Next Generation tried with whoa, why do I see double?
There you go. So I just wanted to show you, this is the best picture I found so far. And this bit over here, that's a river. I couldn't find
that might be more than just a river. That might be
or some waste fluid or something.
It might be.
I don't know, but that's incredible.
That might be waste. Sewage. Yeah, sewage. Yeah. It might be waste reclamation. Because I imagine they recycle everything.
Because there's lots of pipes around here. I'm pretty sure there's some fluid that actually. This is a really detailed picture of the inside of the blue tube. Actually,
I think it would have been neat. It would have been neat to. It reminds me of a factory, like an oil refinery or some kind of factory. And so later on, of course, in the the Kelvin Star Treks. The Kelvin, the interior of the Kelvin it's some kind of refinery or factory, and so is the engineering section of the Enterprise.
Yeah, it's like a brewery, especially in the first episode.
A brewery, that's right.
What the heck? Are they brewing Heineken there or what?
It's amazing what you can do.
That's Scotty's side job.
That's what the whole engine is just a giant still, and he makes whiskey.
Whiskey makes warp drive possible.
I was drinking scotch while your great-grandfather was in diapers. And there you go.
He has different batches. This is a warp 5 whiskey. This is a warp 7 whiskey. And this is a warp 9 whiskey.
It's
brewed under a warp drive.
So, is there anything else we want to say about the Best of Both Worlds part 2?
Yeah, you were saying did something stand out in this viewing? There were a couple of weird shots in the battle bridge from over Wesley's shoulder that I'm kind of like, why do we have like it's just like the back of Wesley's head. Did any of you notice those?
No, I don't think I did.
No, I didn't either.
Really? There were a few that are like, why are we seeing the back of Wesley's head so much? I don't really care. I don't care. Like, we're not even getting like a turn or like, it's like Riker gives him a command and we just see the back of Wesley's head and he's...
By the way, I'm glad you brought Wesley up. Today is Will Wheaton's birthday, so happy birthday, Will Wheaton, and I don't know if you watch the show. You probably don't, but happy birthday all the same.
Happy birthday.
And who was the guy who played in Star Trek 5 and Star Trek 6? He was the
David Warner?
Yeah, he has a birthday too today.
You're kidding. Today's David Warner's birthday.
Well, happy birthday to David Warner as well.
Oh, wow.
See, that definitely pulled more emotion out from everyone than Wesley Crusher, with all due respect.
Oh, we're sorry.
No, it's true. I mean,
we're huge
I was just
Trump.
there today. I didn't see him, but he was there. And
he was at the con?
He was at the con. I didn't take a picture with him because, he used to be in Star Trek Destination conventions as well, but then I said, no, I just forget it. With all due respect, of course. No issue. With him personally, I don't know him, but so far that I heard, he's always reject fans. There's no touching, no talking, nothing, just, go.
Really?
Leaves. That's it, yeah.
Really?
You're not allowed to touch him at all. Wow. Although Dean Cain was hugging everyone. He didn't care. He was hugging everyone.
Well, in David Warner's possible defense, he is very old. Perhaps he just doesn't...
No, I'm thinking about Wesley Crusher. Will Wheaton.
I thought you were talking about David Warner.
No.
Wesley Crusher doesn't want anybody... Oh, man.
No.
What a...
He doesn't like hugging people or even just touching, no way.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Well, Patrick Stewart doesn't shake hands.
He doesn't?
He doesn't.
I mean,
actually,
you can get really sick. I can imagine if you don't have the best and most robust immune system, like all those hands that you're shaking could get crazy. My hero,
2014, when I went to the Destination Convention, and a security guy actually was standing in front of him, and before we walk up to him, get the autograph. No personalization, no handshake, no talking. It's like, whoa, can I say hi? Maybe. It's so strict. Yeah.
Maybe.
Wow. Glenn Gould, who you may know as my alter ego on the interwebs, is a famous pianist who was born in Canada and revolutionized the way concert music is recorded, and even just kind of his interpretations of Bach were revolutionary, if not innovative. But he also had a similar thing where, I wonder, because when you're famous or, in the public's eye that much, I think it can really get to you after a while, so he had a thing where he wouldn't shake hands with anyone, not just he didn't go to conventions or things like that, obviously, but because he was trying to protect his hands, like, so it's a very practical reason. But I could wonder if that's what's going on. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, again, this is something that I'm not sure where I read or anything like that, but Will Wheaton does suffer from like some kind of anxiety. He's been open about his I think, if I'm not mistaken, this could be totally wrong, but he might have some kind of anxiety issues that he deals with. And so it's perfectly understandable, because he's trying
to get a panic attack.
Yeah, he could get a panic attack or something like that. And so he's trying, at least he's going to conventions, at least he's trying. And, one who does not have to deal with those things cannot know what those things are like. Like I don't know, like I'm very like, oh, let me hug everyone, it's like, so I can't really speak towards that, but I can definitely empathize with it and sympathize with it if that is the case with Will Wheaton. I don't think it would be strange at all, and I just appreciate that he even engages with the fandom at all, and it would probably explain some of Will Wheaton's peculiarities. He is a peculiar fellow. I don't know if you've ever tuned into his YouTube channel or the show, that the Will Wheaton Project.
He has a YouTube channel. It's not a tabletop one.
Oh, I don't know. It's the Will Wheaton YouTube channel. He does a video blog and stuff like that.
I have to check that out then.
Yeah, check it out. It's pretty cool. But even then, I've also noticed, like, for example, he's very he's quite an activist. If you look at Will Wheaton, he's very, he takes a stand on things and he goes gung ho on it. But there's a lot of controversy on his Twitter feed. Like, there's a lot of argument and discussion, and so I think he's a polarizing figure nonetheless. And so that might add or cause his anxiety, if you will. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Starfleet Boy on. Go on, Wesley.
Shut up, Wesley.
There is. Go ahead.
Plus, I mean, the character of Wesley is like made fun of so much. I remember at the time, like, and that must impact you in some way as an actor. I do have sensitivity to that, because he's playing a character that's supposed to be a little bit whiny and is supposed to be a little bit annoying, but naturally, but people attribute that to Will Wheaton. And maybe there's reasons why they attribute that to him, because maybe he is that way. I don't know, but yeah, I
saw him taking selfies in the captain's chair. The ENG bit set, and he sat there like a giant big baby with a big smile on his face. It's like, look, I'm the captain now.
That's cool. That's cool. There's a really good. I'll post it in the comments when this goes online. I'll try to remember. But there's a really good recent convention appearance where it's Wesley, it's Riker, and Geordi, and somehow they turn Riker into a verb, meaning to seduce someone, which is what Riker would do a lot. And
you would Riker
like
it?
you would Riker her. And it's funny because Jonathan Frakes, he says there's several actresses that don't acknowledge that they were on Next Generation. One of them being Terry Hatcher, and the other being Ashley Judd.
Oh.
And while he's saying this, on the other side of the panel, Wesley is kind of talking to Geordi, and it sounds like he says that,
You mean Will Wheaton's talking to LeVar Burton?
Right, and it sounds like he's saying that he Rikered Ashley Judd or something to that effect, and Geordi's like, he's like he high fives Wesley, and we're like, funny. What did they just say? Like, it's hilarious, and those three guys together are really funny. LeVar Burton and Jonathan Frakes talk really terrible about the women co-stars, and and Will Wheaton just goes like, I just want to say I disavow any knowledge of who these people are next to me.
That's
He
funny.
doesn't want to take any ownership of the horrible things that
are going on.
are going on.
Funny enough, a quick internet Google search pulls up something interesting, which we don't have time to, or we don't have a way to put the audio onto our show. But there's it's called Project You Are Okay. And there's a video with Will Wheaton on generalized anxiety disorder, chronic depression, and his recovery. And the quote that they have is, "I was suffering for easily 15 to 20 years." So yes, in fact, there is a reason why maybe Will Wheaton is so guarded about his personal space and things like that. It possibly has
that makes perfect sense
with this condition. So yep. Now we know, and knowing is half the battle, as G.I. Joe said.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah, I think that it's time to rate. Oh, we haven't gone to the book. It's not time to do the rating yet. It's time to do the book.
I can't see the book.
Uh-oh. Where are the glasses that Dr. McCoy gave you?
Oh, I sold them to the antique store. Oh, interesting. Okay. It says here, despite the rumors over the summer, the talk about making the strong-willed Shelby a regular in the wake of Wesley's upcoming and eventual about Wesley's upcoming exit eventually evaporated. So in fact, Shelby is the replacement for Wesley.
Oh,
wow.
Wow. Okay.
That's
that would have been interesting. Yeah.
A succession of female con officers would follow until a semi-regular Ensign Rowe came aboard in the 5th season in an episode named for her. Meanwhile, amid all the swashbuckling handed to the women of the crew for saving humanity, it is Beverly who discovers the Borg's fatal flaw, and it is Troy that realizes Picard is fighting through his programming. You know, that's a really good point. This is it is Crusher. You know, in that scene where Data that's another great scene is when Data and Picard, when Locutus is kind of fighting back and he throws
he grabs
right,
yeah.
and Data just like the two female crew members who are there play vital roles. Beverly is there, and so is Troy, and Troy's
O'Brien is there.
O'Brien's in the background.
I actually love that scene because he's supposed to be monitoring Data, and he says, "Well, how do I know when to cut you off?" And Data's like, "I actually don't know. I've never done this before, so we'll find out."
And he delivers it perfectly.
In Next Generation. I remember once when I think it was in season 1, the Boldly Go, or the Where No One Has Gone Before, when they went into a high speed and it's like, okay, we have to stop the ship, so just full stop or something. It's like, oh, never ever anyone did this. It's like, well, we will be the first one then. We have to do it.
That's right.
Or even I think, oh no, that was the end, the saucer separation as well. Never in the first episode, in the pilot.
Wait, was that because it was a saucer separation at warp speed?
At warp speed, and they didn't warp. Yeah, and that was also. So it's quite a recurring thing in TNG. Maybe in the later episodes as well. It's like, we never did this before. It's like, okay, now we're gonna have to do it.
Speaking of the saucer separation, in terms of the original special effects, the original 6-foot Enterprise model had to be dragged out of mothball for the saucer separation because that's the one
that separates.
They usually use a 4-foot model, but they had to drag that one out. And let me tell you, you can't go wrong with saucer separation. Whenever you have an episode with their saucer separates, that's gold right there, folks. Really.
I think it's still funny that Commander Riker's able to manually dock the drive section and the saucer section with no instrumentation whatsoever, just eyeballing it through the view screen.
Again, Riker is a great captain. Now I'll end this this session with a book with Larry Nemesek mentions that Wolf 359 is in fact a real an actual star. It is the
I knew
third.
That actually.
It is the third closest system to Sol after Alpha Centauri and Barnard's star, just 7.6 light years from our solar system, or in Trek terms, a journey of about 36 hours at warp 9.
So it's 36 hours from the Earth
At warp 9.
At warp 9. I know we have thanked Larry Nemesek on the show many times, but I feel like we can't say thank you to him enough. But in addition to that, I don't know if I've ever brought this up, but he's so very much engaged with fans and so generous with his time. Like I don't know how else to thank him except to say, guys, go out and buy this book and do anything you can to to float a little, flow on a little flow in Larry Nemesek's pockets, so he can continue to be this wonderful treasure for Star Trek. And I hope he consults regularly, and I think he does with the Discovery folks. But he was so kind. I posted this picture on both Twitter and on Instagram. I love this picture. It's William Shatner, DeForest Kelley, and Leonard Nimoy, and then they look like they're just having a hoot, but it looks like a promotional picture for the animated series. But I couldn't find that definitively. I couldn't find that. It was kind of more of an assumption that I made, but I really wasn't sure. So I asked, on a whim, I said, in the comments I wrote, Larry Nemesek, which by the way, he's at Larry Nemesek's Trekland, which is his YouTube. He also has a YouTube site that you should subscribe to as well.
Yeah, he does.
And I said, curious if you can confirm that this is a recording promo for the animated series. I couldn't find info on it, and within a short period of time, he says, absolutely, they rarely got together to record, but this was early and for promo purposes. So I didn't even know that they weren't even, but that makes sense. Like, you don't have to record in the same room, obviously. Like you're
right.
Like that's standard practice. So I just think he's a treasure of a person. And he really is the doctor of Star Trek, the Trek doctor, if you will. So yeah, thank you, Larry Nemesek. One day I hope to be a shadow of who you are. Shall we go into our ratings?
It's a 10.
By all means.
And one might even argue it's an 11 altogether, the two episodes together. So yeah, easy peasy. I really enjoyed this discussion. I'm sure there's a lot more that we could talk about. And so if there's anything that you feel like we missed, audience, please feel free to comment below and let us know about it, and also share your thoughts, because we love hearing about them. And so LLAPs to all of our audience out there. Okay. And on that note, live long and prosper, gentlemen, and we'll see you next time.